Here is the USB with the data on it. Humph, if you had always done this, I might have thought more highly of you, but now, this is mine. Don't think you'll get it back. Is that so? David, my manager, looked down at me with a satisfied smile. And then, you're of no use to me anymore. I'll be taking over the business meeting tomorrow. As of today, you're fired. Understood. I handed David the resignation letter I had prepared in advance. Once I confirmed the USB was inserted into the computer, all that was left was to wait and see how things unfolded. Now no longer an employee, I subtly lifted the corners of my lips. My name is Michael. Ever since I was young, my parents gave me a cell phone, and I became immersed in watching videos and conducting simple searches. Above all, what captured my interest the most was gaming. Back then, my parents installed apps for educational puzzles and simple games for me to play. Once I learned how to operate them, I started installing games that interested me. This was what led me to dive deeper into the world of computers. When I entered elementary school, my father gifted me his old computer. In this day and age, it's good to be able to use a computer. Plus, for a game lover like you, it'll be a great gift. Thanks, Dad. My mom was worried about my future grades. However, throughout my elementary school years, I continued to score perfect marks on most tests. Thanks to that, my mom, who was initially skeptical about giving me a computer, stopped fretting. As I progressed to middle school and my allowance increased, I became engrossed in building my own computer. However, initially, I didn't have much money and couldn't afford new parts. Instead, I bought cheap, problematic parts known as junk and gambled on finding ones that worked. It felt like a treasure hunt in a game. Spending time with my computer became my priority. During this time, I also started dabbling in programming. At first, I wanted to create games that I still enjoy today. Although there were complex and difficult parts, looking at the lines of code I wrote filled me with immense excitement and satisfaction. Riding on that momentum, I finally completed a game. Refining and adding to it daily became one of my favorite pastimes. Thanks to this, during my middle and high school years, I was unrivaled in computer classes. I finished tasks faster than anyone else, whether it was a typing test, PowerPoint, or Excel class. Perhaps because of this, I was nicknamed Digital Dreamer by my good friends at school. Digital Dreamer, please help me with my assignment. Oh, Digital Dreamer's overtime fees are steep. I'll treat you to any drink you like, from the vending machine in front of the cafeteria. Heck, deal. I had conversations like these. It's one of the good memories of my youth. I went on to study in the engineering department in college. As I received programming advice from my father, who works in a corporate setting, my skills reached a practical level. The new fascination for me was the world of artificial intelligence. The college environment, filled with oddballs passionately immersed in creation and people more skilled than me, was heaven. During my time there, my father made a suggestion. Michael, would you consider becoming an engineer at my company? But if I get a job, I'll have less freedom. I'd prefer to work somewhere where I can do lots of things I enjoy. Haha, I thought you might say something like that. Well, Michael, you have the skills to make your own choices, so I'm not worried. My father didn't object to my thoughts. But my mom seemed worried. Still, I'm worried. In today's world, having a stable job makes for a more secure future. Don't worry, Mom. I've thought it all through. Really? Are you sure everything will be all right? As soon as I get a job, you'll be the first to know. So, wait for the good news, okay? If Michael says so. My mom tends to worry, but she's not one to dismiss others' ideas. I know she's just more caring than any other mother I know. So, I don't want to leave her feeling anxious for too long. That's why, after graduating from college, I landed a job at a fairly large advertising agency, which seemed like a place where I could balance work and my hobbies, giving Mom a sigh of relief. But my ideal job was not to be found there. David is slacking off again, dumping his work on his junior colleague. His name is Brian. He's the first friend I made at this job. Like me, he's been playing with computers as a hobby since he was young and even exhibits his own games at culminate, which is held twice a year. Since we had similar interests, it didn't take long for us to become good friends. Michael, you've been getting called out a lot lately. Jer, probably because I mentioned I'm good with computers during my self-introduction. Haha, hang in there. But really, I think it's strange that a manager at an ad agency can't even use a computer properly. Tell me about it. Our workplace was turned into a busy one by David, a man in his 50s. He's been there for a long time and tends to dump his work on younger employees. Because of that, we all end up working overtime, despite being able to leave on time under normal circumstances. Both Brian and I are victims of this. Hey, Michael, come here. Yes, what is it? There's a little trouble with the computer. Can you take care of this? All right, I got it. This is how it goes. Whenever there's an issue, I'm the one who gets called. But none of the issues are ever serious. It's fixed now. Young guys like you can't do anything without computers. It's only natural that you can handle this. Yes, sure. I've got a third-grade abacus certification from when I was a kid. Unlike you guys who rely on machines for simple calculations, my calculation skills are superior. I'm on a different level. Do you get that? Okay. Every time I talk to David, he always boasts about himself. He has a condescending attitude toward the younger generation, always looking down on us. This is why he's quite disliked in our department. But there's one guy who seems to get along well with David. This company has grown thanks to me, you know. Amazing, David, you truly are great. You get it, don't you? The greatness of me. Of course. His name is Jason. He's technically one of my colleagues, but I've never really spoken to him. He's always sharp-tinged towards others and sticks close to David like a sycophant. Probably aiming for a promotion, but his actions have been making everyone around him uncomfortable. Michael, here, David said to get this done. Wasn't this your task? What are you talking about? This is clearly the task he told me to give to you. What's with that look? Fine, just leave it. Like this, he too have become someone who pushes his work onto others, just like David. Honestly, I could simply refuse, but if I did, he'd persistently follow me around. So in the end, everyone just ends up accepting it. Michael, you're having a tough time. You too, Brian. Why did we end up working here, I wonder? Right. Well, thanks to those two, I was able to get along with the seniors and peers at the workplace. Lately, everyone started complaining about those two whenever we talked during breaks. Then, a big project came in. It involved handling a new advertising campaign for a globally recognized company that specializes in the Japanese versions of computer software. For the size of the company I work for, this was a huge task. The president seemed very enthusiastic about this opportunity. Thankfully, after much effort, the contract for the job was officially signed in a subsequent meeting. It was a sign of significant progress for the company. Soon, the news reached our department. We were informed about the personnel needed to prepare the data for the business talks. Looking at the list of members participating in the project, I saw my name on it. Good for you, Michael. Jer, this project seems like it will be rewarding. I'm sure you'll bring great results. I'm counting on you. Thanks, I'll do my best. Brian was happy for me as if it was his own achievement. But the joy Brian and I felt was short-lived. As I looked at the list of names, I spotted David's name. Ah. Brian noticed it almost at the same time, and we both let out a sigh. Ah, haha, good luck, Michael. You've got to be kidding, Brian said with a forced smile, reading his words mechanically. As I started preparing for the project, I first gathered the company's data and collected information on the current industry situation to create the materials. I also visited the client multiple times to tailor the materials to their preferences. Through repeated discussions to clarify their needs, I managed to gain some trust from them. While I was engaged in my work, which I found quite enjoyable. However, he always seemed to appear just when I was in a good mood. Hey, Michael, get this data collection done by tomorrow. Isn't this your task, David? Stop complaining. Just do it. All right. David kept dumping even the simplest tasks on me. Honestly, I wondered when he actually did any real work, since he didn't handle anything difficult and even pushed tasks like these onto me. Once, during a break, I witnessed David and his yes man Jason having a conversation. That guy is such an idiot, working so seriously. It's thanks to guys like him that I can reap the sweet rewards. David, you're so wicked. Ha, just let him handle all the bothersome stuff. That way, I can easily make achievements. Typical David, the strategist. Surprisingly, hearing this conversation didn't make me angry. I was just resigned and a bit disgusted, as it was exactly what I expected. Quietly sighing, I returned to my desk to resume my work. The day before the project meeting, I was glued to my computer, finalizing the work while coordinating with the client. I was so busy juggling tasks that I could tell others about it, which made me quite noticeable in my department. Before long, I started receiving high praise from my peers and senior female colleagues, and inwardly, I felt a joy that rivaled even my favorite hobbies. However, it seemed someone wasn't pleased with my performance. Hey, Michael, the copier's ink is running low, refill it. Sorry, I'm a bit tied up right now. Just do it when you're told. This is why I can't stand young people. All right, arguing back wouldn't have made a difference. I knew he was that kind of person, so I didn't retort. But such tasks kept piling on me. Hey, Michael, the ballpoint pens are running low. Order some more from the office supplies. All right, can't you even notice something like this? What's with young people these days? This was just one example. And more. Hey, Michael, make some coffee. Show a little consideration for others. Sorry about that. After being told to make coffee and bringing it to David, he said, changed my mind. Make some green tea instead. All right. Seriously, you're so slow that you've made me change my mind. Honestly, I had the fleeting thought of spilling the hot coffee I was holding. In the end, I poured the coffee down the drain and made green tea instead. Then Brian came over. You all right, Michael? Yeah, thanks, but there's not much I can do. Sorry, I can't help much either. Haha, it's fine. Just talking to you makes me feel like I'm not alone. That's a relief. Michael, once this project is over, let's go grab some food. Steak, barbecue, whatever you want. It's on me. That sounds great. I'll just deliver this tea. A job I was enjoying. And the personal time promised in the contract. All taken away by a man named David, leaving me with a budding sense of revenge. While feeling the warmth of human kindness being snatched away and consumed by growing hatred, I placed the steaming tea next to David. It was meant to be a signal for battle. Then, as if to deliver the final blow, David dumped a huge pile of documents on my desk. Sort these documents chronologically and refile them. I need it done by tomorrow morning. That's unreasonable. I have the project to work on as well. You're a junior, and I'm the manager. You should understand the hierarchy. Normally, you can't defy me. Can't you even handle such a simple task? You're incompetent. Pathetic. Really, no matter how good you are with computers, if you can handle clerical work, you're a failure as an office worker. Do you get that? You're the kind of person who gets discarded. David probably had been harboring resentment towards me. He ranted at me without caring about the looks from others around us. Then, with a satisfied expression, he prepared to leave for the day. "Oh, and give me the documents you've prepared." His tone clearly showed he was looking down on me. Normally, someone in my position should be handling big projects like this and communicating with clients. It was too early for you. His words made me recall everything that had happened until now, and I felt my body shaking with anger, struggling to maintain my composure. For the first time, I experienced how one's vision darkens and narrows when they lose themselves in rage. But in the remaining glimmer of light, I saw Brian and other colleagues and seniors looking at me with concern. I managed to suppress my rising dark emotions. "Understood. Here is the USB with the data." "Humph, that's more like it. If you always did this, I might have been nicer to you. But now, this is mine. Don't expect to get it back." "Is that so?" David looked down at me with a satisfied smile. "And you are no longer of use to me. I'll be at the business meeting tomorrow. You are fired as of today." "Understood. In that case, I'll go and say goodbye to President Thomas." "Do whatever you want." I handed David the resignation letter I had prepared and kept in my desk. He took it, seemingly pleased, and left the room with Jason. "Excuse me." "Come in." After my conversation with David, I went to the president's office to explain the situation. I talked about how the project data was uploaded to the company's cloud and how it could be accessed. Also, during my visits to the client, I got along well with an executive named Mr. Davis, who, seeing my work ethic, had trusted me and even proposed starting a new company together. I shared various things. "So, I thought this company would be a good environment for you. I'm sorry it turned out to be a source of suffering." "It's okay, don't worry about it, but I guess the feelings I harbored towards David will smolder in my chest for a while." "Well, maybe it's for the best. I was never fond of the idea of our relationship being defined by hierarchy. I wanted you to live more freely." "I felt the same way, Dad." Not many people knew, but the president of the company and I were actually father and son. My surname, Williams, was from my mother's side, so it wasn't obvious. Initially, my mom had suggested I join a company to succeed my father, but he wanted me to have more freedom and never intended to make me his successor. Hearing about my resignation, he was secretly relieved. "I'll tidy up and leave the company." "Haha, it sounds like you're going off to some faraway place." "Please forgive me for going ahead." "Just say you're going home normally." "Haha, sorry, I'm heading home then." "Take care." Back in the office, I saw David in a panic. I asked Brian what happened. "Apparently, when he plugged the USB he forcefully took from you into his computer, a warning screen popped up, and it stopped working." I figured as much." Everyone he asks just brushes him off, saying they don't know what to do, so he's getting even more frantic. Watching David and Jason flustered, I couldn't help but snicker. Noticing me, David shouted in a near yell, "Hey, Michael, what's the matter, David? When I inserted the USB you gave me, it stopped working. Fix it." "With all due respect, David, I was fired by you just moments ago, so I'm no longer an employee. It's also past my working hours, so I'll be leaving now." Saying this, I began gathering my personal items to leave. Then, David approached me with heavy footsteps. Then, he reached out to grab me by the collar. "I am no longer your junior colleague. If you harm me, I will file a police report." Heck. David's face turned bright red, and he froze on the spot. "What on earth did you do?" "Well, I can't think of anything, but as a manager, weren't you aware that our company prohibits the transportation of data via USBs? What are you talking about? It's a rule for preventing data leaks. If proper procedures aren't followed, inserting a USB will trigger a warning screen. Oh, right. Recalling the company rule I mentioned, David's face turned pale. It's surprising that someone in your position would forget such an important thing. How did you manage to be in a leadership role? You're getting too cocky. You can't even do basic computer work and lack rational adult thinking, acting like a child unaware of the wider world. Despite your age, your thinking hasn't grown at all. It's amazing how you've managed to survive in society. I mimicked what David usually did to me, right in front of him. Watching this, my colleagues tried to suppress their laughter, their shoulders shaking. Brian, watching the exchange between David and me, leaned on his desk with a smile. Well, if you follow the proper procedures, it will work. Upon hearing this, David seemed relieved and let out a deep sigh. Seizing the moment, I decided to add more. If you apply to the admin department, it should be operational in 2 or 3 days. Hearing this, David's face turned pale again. The business meeting is tomorrow. You understand the current situation, right? As someone in a higher position than me, you should naturally understand. Damn you. Well, since I've been fired and you consider me incompetent, I'll leave this company now. I rely too much on computers, after all, and please, don't contact me. We are practically strangers now, David. Saying this refreshingly, I felt like a hero who had triumphed in battle as I left the room. As I had told my father, the data from the USB memory stick was also uploaded to the company's cloud. However, I deliberately saved it in a place where David, lacking computer skills, would not be able to find it. Despite my resentment towards him, my enthusiastic father and the other project members were not involved. Additionally, I had thoroughly informed Mr. Davis, the client's executive, about the entire incident, so even if David made a blunder, it wouldn't jeopardize the deal. I was confident that my father would skillfully handle the situation tomorrow. Time passed after that incident. One day, over drinks, I heard the continuation of the story from Mr. Davis, who was then an executive on the client's side. David appeared at the scheduled business meeting looking completely worn out. He apparently tried to bluff his way through, but both the clients and my father pointed out every little detail, causing his voice to tremble and grow fainter. Moreover, when asked by the clients why I wasn't present, David boldly claimed I fired him because he was incompetent, as if he had done something righteous. Amidst the clients who chuckled awkwardly, Mr. Davis, the only one with an unchanged expression, calmly spoke. Michael has repeatedly visited our company to understand it better and has created clear and understandable documents. The quality of the completed ads was high, and we were keen to work with him. In what ways are you more capable than Michael, David? David confidently boasted. I have extensive experience in traditional methods and a strong understanding of foundational business skills. At this, my father burst into laughter. Foundational business skills. Michael actually has a wide range of qualifications in modern business practices and technology. Additionally, he has a strong background in bookkeeping and secretarial work. Given his education and experience, I believe he is quite accomplished. Hearing this, David was petrified. Why do you know so much about that guy? He asked in disbelief. I've been the second closest person to him in this world. It's only natural that I know him well. That means, David hesitated. Yes, he's my son. Yikes. At that moment, David reportedly turned pale and collapsed to his knees. Faced with David's downfall, Mr. Davis, the client's executive, delivered a finishing blow. He remarked, "Our company is engaged in developing computer software that everyone relies on, but it seems you even denies that." This statement provoked a burst of laughter so intense that the clients present were almost taken aback. And then, without dragging it out, he abruptly stopped his act, glared at David and, in the lowest voice he could muster, told him something. "You're the incompetent one. The room fell into a chilling silence. According to him, his expression of anger also contained the disappointment of unmet expectations. Afterward, a colleague in the same room reportedly said, with a laugh, that they never imagined Mr. Davis to be such a terrifying person. In the unexpectedly tense atmosphere of the meeting room, everyone except my father and Mr. Davis were reportedly staring at their desks, completely motionless. Amid this situation, my father addressed David. "I understand that it's hard to keep up with the times, especially as we get older. I face the same challenge, but we can't deny these changes. When we do, it's as if time stops. Our industry always needs to be at the cutting edge," he said. And then, he continued, "I've been told you pushed your work onto others, claiming you didn't understand or couldn't do it. We've gathered information from your junior colleagues. It turns out that most of the work attributed to you was actually done by them. So, what is your value here?" At that moment, David was like a frog under a snake's glare, as Mr. Davis metaphorically described. As David became nearly immobile, President Thomas stood up. "I have the materials prepared by Michael right here. I sincerely apologize for the great inconvenience caused today due to my lack of supervision," he said. After saying this, President Thomas greeted the clients with a respectful nod. In response, Mr. Davis remarked, "The excellent materials and the trust that Michael established are still here. Let's discuss this again on another day. After all, we're almost like family," he said, laughing and diffusing the situation. The clients Mr. Davis had brought along also eased the tension with laughter, agreeing with Mr. Davis's decision. Once the atmosphere had calmed down, my father once again fixed a stern gaze on David. "In this world, everything tends to balance out, as if symbolized by the scales of justice seeking equilibrium," my father said, his smile somewhat unnerving. "Now, one side of the scale holds your accumulated actions. What shall we place on the other side to balance it? Let's discuss that back at the office," he suggested, his grin hinting at mischief. Subsequently, my father dismissed David from his position that very day. Mr. Davis, who is usually all smiles, and my father, who is always so kind. Hearing about these unexpected sides of Mr. Davis and my father sent a shiver of fear down my spine. Don't worry, that was just an act at that time," he said, reassuring me with a smile. I decided never to cross these two men. Afterwards, I became deeply involved in the new company I started with Mr. Davis, working more enthusiastically and diligently than ever. The business focused on developing apps that everyone could enjoy and find useful. There was a lot to do, but most of the work overlapped with what had been my hobby. As a result, I successfully turned my hobby into my career. I also kept in touch with Brian, who stayed at my father's company. Sometimes, when our schedules aligned, we would go out for meals and invite Mr. Davis, the president of the new company. The two of them developed a really good friendship, becoming almost like best buddies. Next time, when the app Michael and I are developing is complete, I want to approach your company for the advertising. That's great. I would definitely like President Thomas to pick me for handling the negotiations, Brian responded. Ha ha ha, I'll count on you when the time comes. The connections we had made along the way brought us together as companions on a new path. In life, as long as you strive to move forward, nothing is in vain. Everything becomes a part of who you are in the future. I learned this from the experiences I've had up to today. On a side note, the other day, on my way home from work, I saw David. He was standing in front of a computer school, talking with people his age. After a while, a young man came out of the shop and assured everyone inside, "David, if only you had changed like this sooner, I might have been able to truly respect you. Good luck." I felt a sense of encouragement for him, recognizing his willingness to confront himself and make an effort. Change in times is like a raging river. If you let your guard down, it can drag you down into murky depths and into darkness. That's why it's important to actively gather information and continually update your skills. Doing so allows you to evolve into a self capable of keeping up with the new era. Therefore, it's crucial not to give up or be negative about things you can't yet do. It's also important to love the human part of yourself that is uniquely you. I vow to live each day without forgetting to always learn. As I move forward,